Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of PZ85 Plays on the Podzilla 1985 network. I am your substitute Dungeon Master, Cody Sandusky, here with you. It is because we have taken a brief siesta, a step away from Star Wars and the Dawn of Defiance. We've reached the end of Act 2. If you missed the riveting action therein, recommend that you go back to the archives on Podzilla1985.com or on Facebook.com/Podzilla1985 to check out the streams as they occurred. But with Act 2, we're giving that a moment to breathe and also giving our fantastic Game Master, Double H, a chance to be on the other side of the screen for a moment. And I'm not talking computer screen, I'm talking about the Dungeon Master screen, because we are playing, for the second time, Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. A couple of names in this that you may be familiar with, but we will get to those as we do. First of all, I'd like to introduce my compatriots on this journey back to Faerun and the Sword Coast. First, she is playing a warlock, so not Iris Nay, but instead Jenny. It is Lindsay Wolfgong.
Hello.
Bringing back a completely different character this time around, and I'll let them introduce in a moment, but it is playing a more scaly individual this time around, Double H.
Well, the day is mine.
Oh, I don't want the category for you to take, so I'll move on to joining us for the first time in Dungeons & Dragons, albeit not on PZ85 Plays. He is playing a fighter of sorts, Tanner Calvert. Big T.
What is up? Wait, are we okay, yeah, never mind.
No, we'll get to the characters in a second. And then for the first time joining us on Plays, but a familiar voice you will have heard on Horse Time and sundry other podcasts on this network, it is the Cazman.
Greetings and salutations.
Salutations and greetings indeed. So if you are a bit unfamiliar, again, we are playing D&D 5e. There was a previous adventure after Act 1 that we undertook. You can also find that on the archives at Podzilla1985.com or Facebook.com/ No, never mind. No, you can't do that because we weren't streaming that yet. Never mind. Just the archives at Podzilla1985.com. My brain went autopilot. We did not stream those.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's close enough. But we are back in the universe of Faerun, back in the world of D&D. If you're unfamiliar, well, you'll get there soon enough. Think a bit of high fantasy, although if you join us for our last time around, not so much high fantasy as just general human nature stories going along. Last time we were trying to defend a village from a giant. This time we're on the other side of the high forest. In fact, if we're on Roll20, you will see, as I believe I have the players on the map. Yes, I do. So for those of you that are looking at that, you will see that I've got a blue ellipses circled about where we are. Kaz and Tanner for reference. You'll see an orange circle pop up here. Now, that is where we were the last time. So we have ventured our way to the other side of the high forest. Oh God, here it is. Engulfed in flames.
Oh no.
Oh, now keep them flames going,
That's
buddy
where
boy.
horse meets man.
I didn't cause that fire.
Oh,
No.
we will soon enough.
He did.
We will.
There's enough
was all
alcohol
covered.
percentage in there to make it happen.
Burn up quicker because you're made of liquor. Oh boy. So since we're on that side of things now, we're going to move right into the introductions. And because I feel no better way to transition, Mr. Centaur 40 Hands, tell us who you are playing today.
Yes, so I am playing Nobody. He is a centaur monk. Is an unusual choice, but that's what happens whenever you are found somewhere and adopted into a monastery and learning the ways of the drunken fist because he has a tendency to drink often. So, yes, Nobody.
Rocking an eye patch, 2 nice bottles of mead that may or may not be attached with those hand wraps. And yes, he is bottom half horse, top half man, because that's the less horrifying version of that.
Where horse meets man.
Or horse meets man. And I'm not going to go into the etymology of I still don't understand why the loincloth is on the front of the horse. As I put, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go past it. The man who is changing characters this time around, we're going to pivot from Bacchus, no longer joining this particular group of adventurers, but instead, Double H, please let us know about your character of choice this time.
Yeah, so if you listen to our previous adventure back around Christmas, Bacchus, my half-orc barbarian, is very much a folk hero, common man. He has headed back to his original village of Thunder Tree to resume his wood-cutting ways there. Again, he's not much of an adventure seeker, so he kind of always gets wrapped up in stuff and then eventually gets his way back out of it. With that in mind, however, I created a new character specifically for this campaign, a wandering paladin of Bahamut, by the name of Typhon Aurelius, or Typhon. I don't care. He's lawful good, so he's very much the kind of guy who is there for everyone. He does good everywhere that he goes. He's a helping hand. He would never correct your pronunciation of his name. He's a dragonborn paladin who left his clan behind. Dragonborn are very clan-based people, and he left them behind for reasons that I'll maybe get into eventually. I don't want to tip too much of his hand at this point. But yeah, he's sort of like the wandering priest type, and so that's what he does, and you can see him over on the Roll20s there.
Yes,
that's
you can.
Typhon.
That's Typhon, and I'll go with Typhon if that's the way you're going to say it. Like you said, if he's not going to correct, yeah,
that's how I've been saying.
That's fine for me.
Yeah, that's how I've been saying it, but it was never. Yeah.
As Kaz so conveniently put it in our chat, Typhon. Oh. Typing with Typhon.
That's the plan.
That's right. So transitioning from quite a colorful cast of characters with a centaur monk and a dragonborn paladin, someone a little bit more in the traditional realm of what you would expect in terms of D&D races. Tanner, let us know about your character.
I am playing a half-elf. His name is Aegir. He is kind of a loner in my mind. He's very much just traveling alone, not trying to make friends with anybody. And if he somehow gets drug into some kind of situation or conflict, it's a very unfortunate turn of events because he's just not looking for anything currently.
So wandering amongst the trees in and out of the high forest, there's few better places in Faerun to get lost, at least on this side of the continent, than the high forest. A lot of places where you to navigate and avoid peoples if at all possible. Joining us for
Christmas pirate.
That's right. The
Get off of him.
Christmas pirate. Or as I misread it, the Christian pirate. You know, that's what I want on my Minecraft server. Pirate. A good Christian pirate.
Ooh, hey.
Joining us for the second adventure in a row. She is the one returning character, at least so far, in this campaign, or at least this adventure. Lindsay, please reintroduce us or give us a brief overview for Jenny.
So Jenny is a half-elf warlock that was originally raised by a group of sages, so she's very much into research and intellect, but she kind of felt a little burned by them at one point in life and made a pact with a demon and is now a warlock. And somewhere along the line, she decided she did not want to be this demon slave in her entire afterlife. So her personal mission is to find some great mystery and solve it so that she can prove to this demon that she's worthy of having her soul back. And from where we left off last time, she was kind of interested in finding out the mysteries of the star mounts. And so she's still kind of wandering around that general area, just trying to find something to solve.
And what better place to go then, as you said, around the star mounts. For those of you that may or may not see the map in this audio format, they are on the southwest side of the high forest, which, at least in terms of reference, is the nearest portion of the forest to the star mounts. So Jenny being around here makes a good amount of sense. Our previous character that may or may not be finding their way back into this campaign in future installments, one Rosenblood, was an Aarakocra ranger who hailed from the Star Mounts, a birdman from on high, and that is where he hails, and likely is currently roosting. So, Jenny being relatively nearby means she is in indirect potential contact with a former traveling partner, but we shall see how that plays into it. So coming in to where we are located in Faerun on this southwest side of the High Forest, at least for Jenny, I would believe, because you are wandering around this area, you have found your way, at least in and out once or twice, into this specific village of Wyhearth. Small place. In your specific case, maybe a bit familiar feeling, maybe close to Frickley, a little bit larger than Frickley, which is where our last adventure took place. So again, on the opposite side of the High Forest, but still a similar feeling location. Small town, maybe a few hundred people, a lot of farmers, a few more loggers this time around. These people tend to be a little bit more involved with the woods and maybe utilizing its gifts to sustain themselves. You are closer, if you take a look at the map, to a river and frankly the entire Sword Coast. So you have a few more people that are familiar with the waterways and traveling in and out of them. You're close to the Desaris River on a little bit of a western journey. But Jenny, you would find yourself, as things go, or at least I would believe it feasible that you would find yourself coming into town perhaps with some adventuring, having been done perhaps in search of bigger mysteries. Give us a little bit maybe. Have you found anything more of note in your hunt amongst the Star Mounts, your hunt amongst the High Forest?
Nothing that feels solid enough. Again, some of these mysteries that I feel are worthy, either many people just don't know of, or a lot of them don't want to talk about them for fear of other things that might come from them.
That sounds about right for this region, especially given the folks that you encountered at your previous time. There was a lot of denial about a giant being nearby wanting to ransack a village, so I can certainly think that things more far-fetched or more high thinking than that would be far outside the scope of most people's day-to-day. So with that in mind, at least for you specifically, I think you all will be seeing it now, you will have found yourself in the Farmer's Cask.
It's a very familiar-looking pub.
Yes, I made this joke off air to Hunter, but both Jenny, since she is the one returning character, and Lindsay may be quite familiar with the layout. The way I will hand-wave that is to say that it's basically a business in a box for everybody around the High Forest. There aren't really many floor plans for an inn tavern of a few hundred people town. Exactly. You build it, you put that one little indentation where the door is at, and that's all you got to worry about. Everybody else is quite okay with living their life, so we're going to go ahead and place your character there. So
at least you have the token for my actual character.
Yes. Everybody has their Hero Forge character in token form for this campaign.
Good.
So you have found your way back into Wyhearth, and specifically the Farmer's Cask. You've been in and out, again, of similar places before, and for these people, you being half-elf, maybe not revealing too much of your warlock ways, nothing too particular, too fussed about your presence. You're another traveler going up and around, and where they're positioned in the High Forest, being near a river, that's a lot of what they cater to, are people maneuvering in and out of the area. So that makes a lot of sense. I'll pivot briefly to Typhon, or Typhon, as I believe, I was about to say typhoid, that's not where we're going with that. A very different adventure we may play at a future time.
No, he's immune to disease as a paladin, so that can't be a thing.
But can he pass it?
Oh no!
No,
too real. No, we're supposed to escape reality with this, Lindsay. Don't do it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we don't. I don't like it. I don't
Wear
want
a
it.
mask. Anyway,
So, goodness, Typhon, you have found yourself around here. As you alluded to, you are someone being a follower of Bahamut. You are very much about law and justice and wanting to be good to those that are good. Among your journeys, you have been searching for a temple or something to give you maybe some more direct connection to your deity, but at least at this point have come up empty-handed. As unfortunately tends to be the way for a lot of the High Forest folks, at least for those that don't pay much attention to the areas around them. Despite being so close to something like the Star Mounts, where people that could very easily equate the bird folk as deities, or at least representations of the deities on this plane, a lot of folks don't seem terribly fussed. Most villages you've been navigating through currently haven't had much in the way of temples. Maybe along a road path you found a small altar or a designated point of worship for certain small deities in your general paths, but nothing staunch, nothing dedicated in the way that you would expect of someone as high as Bahamut and the entirety of that plane. So a lot of your work has been serving as directly as you can. You come across people who are traveling, who are in need of help, maybe setting up camp, or maybe needing to find a proper path, gather some goods. That's a lot of what you have been doing thus far, and at least to this point, that's where you found yourself again. You are navigating through the borderlands between the High Forest and Wyhearth. You have found your way helping this very tavern in need of finding something as simple as firewood. Not really much in the way. The innkeeper, a relatively staunch man, has found himself injured after a bit of an impact with a tree in a previous cutting search. So in exchange for hospitality, in what you are at least a little shocked, I'm sure, to see that people not, again, terribly fussed about a dragonborn. You've encountered situations where your kind are not warmly received, in part maybe because you're near the Star Mounts and all the things we just said about the Aarakocra and the bird folk. It's not as unusual to see a bipedal dragon of any sort. So in exchange for hospitality and some time at the inn, if you do so wish on your travels, you have found yourself outside of town at this point, taking care of some trees. Is this how does Typhon feel about the manual labor of this sort? Maybe not what he would expect trying to serve Bahamut.
You know, at this point in his life, nothing surprises him. I mean, he's done every little odd job here and there over the course of, it's been about 7 years since he devoted himself to Bahamut. And so, in traveling and trying to find a place to stay on the regular, not really holding a regular job, per se, he kind of just does whatever's available to him. And so this is not something that's totally out of the ordinary. Collecting wood, gathering greens for the stew, or whatever the case may be, whatever's needed, he doesn't really mind to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, by comparison with Bacchus, a character he does not know, but just for argument's sake, he's no woodcutter. This is not his day job, and so he would certainly have to borrow, like, an axe. His regular implement is not really meant for that, but yeah, he would, borrow a simple tool or fashion what's necessary and get to it. He's big, he's stout, manual labor is certainly not beneath him, nor is it something that he has trouble with, so yeah, he would happily chop away, probably whistling a tune while doing so.
All right, sounds like he is well within his element. In fact, as you came across the farmer's cask and again encountered these folks in need of assistance, they have the tools that you would need. There is a wood axe, there are the implements you would need, even maybe a rough approximation of a wheelbarrow in terms of something that is capable of transporting a few logs and things that you would go back and forth. While you're at it, go ahead, just for the fun of getting this underway, give me a strength check. I want to see what success you are having with knocking some trees down.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it does give me an option to roll.
All right, 23. You're mighty good with the axe. You're feeling pretty all right about that. Yeah, that's no struggle.
Like
Typhon has his implement.
I was wondering if that would actually roll all that.
Yeah, it's not his warhammer, but he knows how to wield something with a heavy end and with two hands. Yeah, it's no struggle for you. You're feeling fresh. You're capable of taking care of this work on the outskirts of town. So that's where we find you.
I would suspect that, frankly, it comes down to, he's probably just happy to have found a place to rest for the night. And so something as simple as cutting wood is not, smashing rats in the basement to clear them out, or having to run off, the local bully. This is easy work. Bahamut has smiled upon Typhon today. If all he has to do is chop some wood for a place to stay and a comfortable bed and kind folk and something to eat, yeah, that's something he can do.
And indeed, he shall do it. Aegir, I'm actually going to give you a little bit of maneuverability here. What has brought you to the High Forest, or at least this close to the High Forest?
Well, currently I'm looking for a place. I'm looking for some kind of shelter, some place to stay. But being as I travel and I don't really have any work, so far as to say is, any regular income coming in, I do on the side brew my own mead. So my idea is I'd be coming into town to look for a way to sell some of my mead, sell a few casks of it, and then have the money to find a place to stay.
Okay, that seems fairly agreeable as to something. Go ahead. Wondering which way I want to see how this specific batch of mead has gone. Go ahead and give me. Give me a medicine check. I have a little bit of fun with that. It is the cause of and solution to all life's problems. I can't think of anything more medicinal than that.
20.
Okay. A 19 plus 1, that's a 20. Yeah, so again, much like Typhon, things are looking bright for you today. This particular pair of casks have served you well. You believe this to be one of the finer brews you have made in many a moon, and that is where you find yourself finding, again, small villages, nothing in terms of this is not something that you expect to be able to retire upon or to do much beyond take the next few weeks of journeys. But coming into Wyhearth, and particularly the Farmer's Cask, again, you find a little bit of providence and coming into a place that has the namesake of your product within its placard. So you will have as well found yourself here. As for Nobody, you specifically, you've had a little bit of a struggle acclimating to this specific part of Faerun. Not necessarily, again, a centaur, whilst a very outlandish concept to many a folk that could well happen. You found yourself maybe gazed upon inquisitively, a little bit skeptically, wondering what deity, what member of the pantheon would deem it so to make man meet horse this way. Probably have faced some inappropriate questions trying to figure out how you exist. You've probably run the gamut in terms of how things have gone. I can't imagine it's been a quiet journey for you, depending on the villages you have entered.
Definitely not. Nobody is a bit of a mystery and an enigma all rolled into one horseman. And from his perspective at the bar, which he tends to haunt quite regularly, he is found haunted in many ways. As far as his demeanor, he's not exactly very friendly, a bit standoffish, but just kind of drinking his woes away, obviously chasing some form of demon from his past, which he is definitely not from the area himself, but feels gravitated to the Faerun, seemingly like it's an area that's always pulled him to it, but he's definitely from a far off way. Grew up in a monastery, kind of a one of his own, didn't really fit in with anyone else for four-legged obvious reasons. But in his time there, definitely picked up and learned the way of his masters at the monastery. And right now, he's at the bar, just kind of, like I said earlier, continuing to drink away and try and run away from something that had pushed him away from his original place and into this new land.
All right, so Nobody is going to be placed very intentionally at a corner of the bar because, again, being a quadruped, you got a chance to just stand. You don't really need a stool of sorts. That you just take up your spot.
It's probably also fair to say at this moment that scale-wise, it's not exactly what you would expect. So he is probably more on the bar than away from it, from his rather short stature. As a centaur, most would assume he would be fairly tall. Difficult to be in such a bar, but As there are Shetland ponies, there are Shetland centaurs. So here we have a very tiny centaur.
So our minuscule but mighty hero here, standing on the bar, drinking what is probably more than his fair share of mead and ale for the day. Ginny and Aegir, I'm going to allow you guys to take a little bit of freedom here. What, in both of your cases, because you don't arrive too far apart, albeit coming from different directions, you both arrive at the Farmer's Cask within a few, maybe 15 minutes of each other. So you've probably, in Ginny's case, probably been moseying around again, familiarizing yourself with yet another very similar footprint of a tavern and inn. What are you thinking, seeing what looks like an oversized pet standing on top of the bar with a man's body playing Centaur 40 hands?
That's a tiny horseman.
Excuse me, Horseman? His name is Horseman?
Horseman. Tiny horseman. That's your nickname now. That stays.
Oh no.
Tanner, when he asked you what you were thinking, the correct answer was, there he is. My tiny horse.
Oh my.
Tanner, where is that tiny horse?
It's going to have to be his theme song
He's on
every
the
time he
bar.
walks into a bar. On
There
the
he
bar.
is.
On a lute.
Whoa!
Whoa.
What's the matter with you?
Parker's like,
Whoa,
that's
I
a
think
weird
that's
horse.
him.
I don't think he likes it much.
He woke up out of a dead sleep and now he's just cranky.
Oh my god.
What is this tiny horseman doing at the bar exactly?
Drinking.
Huh.
Drinking a lot.
Oh, I bet I could sell a whole cask just to him. There may be a chance for more money.
In fact, while we're thinking about that, go ahead and give me a... we'll do the same thing. Nobody, give me a medicine check. I want to see how well you're doing right now.
Okay. All right. Medicine check. Let's find
Actually, no. Let's Constitution. Let's do that. It's just a -1
All right.
into the difference. But yeah, let's do a Constitution check. Let's see how you're handling your liquor right now.
Oh wait, wrong thing.
No, that's a
Jeez.
con save. You're good. No, that's what we wanted.
There we go.
Yeah, so con save 18. Yeah, you're doing all right for yourself. You've dabbled many a day away inside of a cask, whether it be drinking it, trying to lift it up and drink from it like a bottle, just trying to fit your tiny horse body into it and drink it away from the inside. There are many methods that you have partaken in the ale and mead over the years.
He does
But
enjoy the
you are-
bottle.
But you're not drunk uncle yet. You're still
He
doing
keeps
all right.
drinking like that. Before too long, we're going to be going, there's a horse in the hospital.
But the more bottles, the more fists.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, so Ginny.
I
you're
knew
looking
you'd
for
say that,
mysteries.
you fucking horse.
Don't call me a horse. I'm a man first.
I'm not even there, dude. I need to stop. Go on with the game, Cody.
Jenny, you've been looking for mysteries. Few things maybe garner your attention, albeit maybe not mysterious, but questionable, as a 4.5-foot horse standing on top of a bar drinking. So,
Yeah,
find out, what do you think?
my inquisitive nature wants me to immediately just go start asking a bunch of questions, but in my past travels, I have learned to keep myself a little bit more in check. I have seen other centaurs, but definitely not one this small, nor one this drunk. So I would definitely make my way over to the bar to sit relatively nearby and just try to observe for a little while before I make an attempt to speak with him.
All
No
right.
lie, she wants to go pet him.
But because my grid is weird.
That would not go well.
Where do you pet?
Right?
Like,
What do you pet?
What do you do?
The
You scratch
answer is none.
Scratch
Yeah.
his back. You're technically playing with his. Never mind.
Calm down.
I said back.
Nobody calm down.
I'm assuming all these little fancy bars you guys are getting are your add-ons that you did.
Oh, yeah, I forget. It does.
Yeah, it's just a thing called Beyond 20.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a Chrome
plugin.
extension.
We'll get you set up with that for the next one.
That's
Yes, we will.
fine.
So, Aegir, you find yourself, I'm sure, trying to ask for the owner or the manager of this establishment. I'd like to speak to them about perhaps performing a bit of trade, whether it be a couple of casks for a drink here or just some gold or silver. You don't typically fetch too terrible much, but you have your price that you wish to exchange for. You are the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. Everyone has a price for you. So I gather I'll let you maneuver about the area to do as you wish. It's not terribly late in the day. I would say in our approximation, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock. It's a little bit later toward the end of a workday for some. In Typhon, I'm sure you've been out for at least a few hours, and with the success you've been having, you've probably brought back a few carts of wood. So at this juncture, I feel, and you feel, that it's probably time to settle in. That you're doing all right. You've served well. You have performed well in honor of Bahamut for these people, and that it is time to maybe take your evening rest.
Yeah, basically the early ones are just kind of brought around to the back. I assume like the first few carts, whatever they need, if they're using it to fuel the hearth or the cooking fire or whatever they need. But basically, by the time the last one comes around, he's this is not a guy who looks to make an entrance, don't get me wrong, but having been here for a little while and having gotten to know the people, he's feeling jovial. Again, that's easy work, relatively. So I would assume that he would come in, Typhon comes in with the last load, like, in his arms, and kind of shoulders the door open, intentionally trying to draw a little attention just out of excitement and saying, "My friends, we have quite the bounty for this evening. Bahamut has smiled upon us this day." And he makes his way to wherever the wood needs to be placed and pretty much just chucks it all in one go. And then finds himself, I don't know that he would sit at the bar, but he would definitely, if there's an open table, like, find a space, not out of the way, but just not want to take up too much space. He's a big guy. This guy's 6'7", couple 100 pounds. He doesn't want to be in the way. Find him a space and
I hold up a bottle and I'm like, "Hey, that's a lot of goddamn wood. Come over here and chat with me."
Nobody, you specifically, upon the pronouncement of Typhon, you're seeing an orange aura around him right now. You've gotten a few bottles deep. So you're seeing Typhon drop that wood and give you one of these numbers. Maybe hear a little bit of a "Give It To Me, Baby" in the background. You don't know whether...
Charlie Murphy!
What the shield saying?
He's not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, if he gets my attention, if this guy gets my attention, and I'm assuming up to this point I have not noticed him throughout the course of the
very
day.
Intent on the
I would absolutely, yeah.
But but when I yell it, I yell it in Draconian.
Yeah, that's about how well that goes.
I like how Kaz went full. He went method acting and got drunk for the part. Hey, with the dogs off.
Yeah,
dogs off.
Grunt, Ugzog, Big Wood, come talk.
If he says it in Draconic, that would absolutely get my attention. And so, yeah, before Typhon has a seat, he'll turn, and there's like an inquisitive look of is this? Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? But yeah, open-mindedly, he makes his way over to the bar and says, "Well, Bahamut always says to beware the swordsman who wields no blade. My friend, I am Typhon Aurelius, and you are
a horseman."
"Oh, you should think more of yourself than that. Come, tell me your name so that we may share a drink together."
That's it. That's the beginning and end of it. Nobody.
And there's like 2 or 3 more back and forths of this before eventually recognizes, oh, nobody is his name. Okay. If it was an hour ago, I would have played out the entire who's on first bit.
Curious if it was going to go that route.
I don't know. Third base.
Yeah, eventually eventually he says, something to the effect of, well met, nobody. I suspect by the end of this evening, in this part of the woods, in this neck of the woods, you will be a somebody.
Planning on it. I got to remember what that is first. Or something.
Whatever he's drinking, Typhon, with what little, pittance he's earned at this point, will order one for him and for his friend as well.
And as these interactions are going on, Ginny is getting even more intrigued because now a Dragonborn is talking with the horseman.
Yeah, I assume, by the way, that these conversations, you greet each other in Draconian. You're going to keep going in that, yes?
Yes.
Or Draconic.
Until the order, until placing a drink order.
Right.
At that point, it goes to common.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me.
So as not to alienate.
So tell me, Ajir, you've been here trying to sling your casks of mead, as it were. You hear a relatively familiar tongue, although you haven't had much work in the way of exercising it. You've got two people in here speaking Draconic. And one of them certainly makes sense to. One of them definitely does not make sense to be speaking Draconic. And you, being a half-elf, are already baffled by the fact that I thought I was the weirdest guy that knew how to speak this language. Where the hell does this horse get off with this? So you're probably wrapping up your exchange. You've picked up your week's worth of funds to find your navigations and travels well funded. What are you looking at? How are you observing this conversation? Do you wish to jump in? How are you feeling about this?
Well, I'm going to jump in because mainly I'm looking at this small horse person, thinking I could sell him some of this mead, and he would absolutely love this, and it would also probably knock him out for the night.
Okay.
I hope.
Feel free to walk up. How do you introduce yourself to Nobody and Typhon? I'm sure you've probably picked up on the names at least.
I'm gonna just stroll up. Greetings, my fellow patrons of the bar. Did I hear you say your name is Nobody?
At this point, it's kind of like a question on whether he's actually able to see one or three of the person that's just walked up to him. And at that point, he just kind of like points at one of the various people, probably not actually him, maybe the one to the left or right, and just asks him if he has more alcohol to share.
I reach for my belt and pull out my drinking horn, which has some of my own brew still in it, and gladly share with my new friend, Nobody.
Typhon's got he's got his mug in one hand, and he's got one that other that he goes to slap Nobody on the back, and then like restrains himself a little bit and just kind of pats him gently. Like he's gonna treat him as a big friend, and then says, no, he's much too small for that. He says, my diminutive friend here will be quite satisfied to enjoy your refreshments. It is well known that Bahamut has said in the past that a man who finds pleasure in the result of drinking is a crawling creature, but a man who finds pleasure in the craft of drinking, now that is an artisan. My name is Typhon Aurelius, friend, and you are?
They call me Aegir, and while I agree with those teachings, I didn't realize we had that many spiritual folks in this area.
Oh, I am not from this area, friend. I am from the world at large, as it seems. I seek the comfort of the Temple of Bahamut, and someday I will have it.
Well, that sounds interesting. Would you like some of my mead?
Oh no! And despite his appearance, giant, big, he holds up the one mug, which is like half full at this point, and says, "No, this will be more than enough for me this evening."
And at the same time, Nobody tosses the bottle down onto a stack of dozens of others, and then just holds out his hand for another one.
Tell me, Nobody. Give me one more of those con saves. I want to see how a finer blend of mead goes down with what you've been drinking this evening.
Uh-oh.
Well, yeah.
not too good.
That's an 11. You, my friend, being upright while being a more capable skill for you typically, seeing as you have 4 legs over 2, you're starting to lose that sure-footedness. In fact, Typhon, you're kind of where you were hesitant previously to smack him on the back. You're now maybe putting out that hand to keep him on the bar. This drink,
It's
while
one of those,
not putting you down, is a doozy.
He's trying not to embarrass him, so when he notices that that nobody is definitely staggered just a little bit despite being a quadruped, he'll lean over on the bar sort of in front of him to put one arm kind of on the side of it. That way if he falls, he's got like a barrier.
And at the same
he's got to
time,
fall into the arm.
Nobody kind of notices that the arm's extending, and he tries to dodge it just because he don't like to be touched.
No touchy.
And he just kind of like stumbles around and then gets out from under it and gets to the other side of the bar quicker than most people expect him to move so drunkardly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's tiny enough. We could carry him somewhere to put him down, let him sleep for a little bit.
Try it. He just reaches. He points his finger up at everybody around him and says, "Just try that."
He says everyone. It's just 2 of us. It's just there's so many of us in that double vision.
That's all he has left to see. Typhon would definitely leave that to you first, my friend. You are welcome to try. I will leave that to you.
Nay. I will we'll stay here at the bar and have my drink.
Jenny, you've gotten more than your fair share of observation out of all of this. Like you may not have found the mystery you seek, but you have found excitement of a different flavor. Are you feeling frisky enough to jump in and participate in conversation, or are you still willing to see what the quadruped does on top of a bar?
I kind of want to still just watch at the moment, but I am definitely highly amused and clearly blatantly watching them at this point.
Which gives me that part. Nobody, you're going to have disadvantage on this, but Azir and Typhon, I need you guys to give me a perception check.
Okay.
Let's see how involved you are in this conversation.
Oh, I have no perception bonus.
Doesn't matter.
Jeez.
Azir, you are enraptured in Tiny Horseman being so knocked askew from your finest mead. You are feeling proud in this moment, and you are transfixed upon his ability to still allegedly be upright.
I'm gonna feed him one more just to see what happens.
Oh, he may not be able to take it. Go ahead and give me that. Give me 2 rolls of perception there, nobody.
Oh dear.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Booyah.
Okay.
Bring me all the meads.
Being someone of the school of a very drunken form of your class, you are still capable. You are still an observant creature, albeit the spirits or outlines of those things you're observing are not necessarily steady at this point. You are able to see Typhon and nobody. You two specifically notice Jenny on the side of the bar, scoping into the conversation here. Do you wish to interact at all, or do you wish to kind of address the, maybe not gawker, but someone very intent on watching you guys right now?
I would like to kind of like, I don't want to say sneakily, like I just try to slowly move around to the other side towards her just to see if I can what she's up to.
I mean, if you saw her, if you did not pass that perception check, homeboy, so you may see her in a little bit. It's probably gonna be after these two get their conversations going.
I'm too busy laughing until the time horse.
Yeah, you are again completely. You are absorbed in watching nobody handle, for lack of a better phrase, the mead you gave him.
Yeah, what did I see exactly with that perception check?
Basically, just the fact that there is someone at the end of the bar that, whilst this conversation has been quite jovial and quite uplifting, perhaps in your spirits after a good day of work, you notice somebody who is just, again, it's like across the restaurant, you feel that feeling of someone having their eyes on you and kind of glance up, and you do notice, in fact, this person at the edge of the bar who has not participated in the conversation, doesn't seem untoward in any way, but she is completely enthralled in the happenings at the end of the bar.
Sorry, now all I can picture is fucking Mac and Charlie just at either end of the restaurant.
All right. Yep.
So, so while this drunken revelry is taking place, Typhon is slowly but surely finishing the one mug he's allowing himself, and he'll make his way over, there. As I'm assuming the other patrons are kind of interacting with this. Once there's enough space for him to do so, quietly as he can be, to Jenny says something to the effect of, "The revelry does not seem to suit you this evening."
Oh, not at all. I'm quite entertained. You are a bunch that one would not usually see having fun together.
There's fun to be found anywhere that I go, my friend. Typhon Aurelius, I am a paladin of the Great Bahamut, and you are.
Jenny, I am out to find a great mystery to solve.
Isn't that what anyone seeks? In fact, I note my friends, and he points back to them. Of course, these guys have barely known each other. He's already calling them friends. He says, it occurs to me, Bahamut teaches that while they may seem foolish, they are as much kings as fools, aren't they? They're not so disparate, I think. Both freed from the petty restraints of mortal men and free to soar above reason. But it seems that reason suits you, that you may be in search of more of it.
I am indeed a curious one. I like finding things out, and as I've said, have sort of made it my quest.
The word quest definitely piques his attention, and he mentions, well, as a servant of the great dragon god, it is well within my capability, and of course within my duty, to assist. So, if I may be of assistance, please, by all means.
Well, my most recent journeys, I have been searching for information on the mysteries of... I just totally went blank. Mind me a second. On the
okay.
star mounts. But I have not been coming up with much more than what is already written in many books and tomes out there.
Cody, can I make a history check to see what I know about the star mounts?
You sure can.
Okay. That's something I'd like to do. Did it do?
Typhon is a skilled
Can't
character.
Go see what happens. Yeah, apparently.
16 on a history check. So you are aware of the general history of the star mounts. In fact, a bit more than what you would, or at least many in your case, especially Jenny, would expect someone who isn't from this portion of the plane to be knowledgeable of. He is familiar with the Aarakocras. You may bring up in conversation that you have interacted with one recently. You know of them very, very intently for someone, again, who is a dragonborn and not necessarily someone who has interacted with them in the past. You also know that there have been, on more than one occasion, a few ancient dragons that have been residents of the Star Mounts. Maybe not necessarily ones that you would have involvement with as a person following Bahamut, but you would know that Inferno or Imvarnero is a dragon, an ancient red dragon that has been in the Star Mounts many years past. He has been isolated, but you know of him being around. So you're quite involved. You got a bit of knowledge in your pocket.
Okay. So I'll relay that information, not condescendingly, because again, she did mention that she's done quite a bit of studying in books, and a lot of this sounds like book-based knowledge, but anything I think would be relevant outside of that, I'll pass along, and then sort of end and follow up with, it sounds as though your intention is to visit these star mounts. I would gladly be of assistance in that journey.
I would appreciate the help, but as far as my personal reasons on this may not quite blend with your ways of thinking, to keep it basic.
Typhon's in high spirits, so he passes on that with simply a mention of, effectively he's saying no money down, right? He's not asking for payment. He's not asking for any sort of, recouping if you were to travel together. Just simply that, he's always looking for the next great adventure. And if you're always looking for the next great mystery and it's going to take you to a place that he's never been, even if he studied it, then he's willing to come along if you'll have him and if he can be of some assistance. And he tacks on, kind of jerking his thumb over his shoulder there, perhaps these two could be coerced into attending as well. They seem lively, if nothing else.
Could make for a very interesting travel party for sure.
So this conversation
He slams
goes.
his hand.
Yes. No, you go ahead. I want to hear where else this goes.
I was just gonna say he slams his hand on the bar. One drink is more than enough, no matter how big he is. He never drinks, and is very excited and says, "Then the pact is sealed. In the morning, we set out at first light."
About that same time, nobody holds up a glass and screams out very loudly, "What?" Okay.
Typhon turns toward him and says, "That's the spirit, my friend."
Oh, as this conversation is winding down, about the time where you actually say the word adventure underway, you see someone sprint into the bar very quickly. He's a hunter. He looks like he has had a little bit of his gathering for the day's hunt, but his face is very very pale. He looks as if he has seen something that would shock him to his core, which makes immediately most of you kind of perk up a little bit, and especially the people in the bar as well. They seem familiar with this gentleman. He starts muttering kind of something under his breath and just stands there and he enters the bar. He can't be bothered to be moved yet, but he's very much kind of shaken.
He catches Aegir off guard enough to the point where Aegir, in just a flash of lightning, turned around, bow drawn, like, what is wrong? He doesn't like people sneaking up behind him like that.
Okay, so we've had one person prepared. How about the rest of you guys?
When I see him react in the way that he did, I immediately put my fists up.
I'm far enough
It's
away.
Typhon
I'm just
then
watching.
He sobers immediately, sets down the mug, makes his way toward this group, and calmly puts a hand onto Aegir's shoulder. "Lower your weapon, friend." He turns his attention to the one who's the hunter who's entered, and says, "Speak plainly now. What is the trouble?"
He looks at you, and again, now that he has kind of turned his head toward you, you're seeing again that very pale, his eyes. It's almost as if it's 1,000-yard stare. He does not know of what he has encountered, but he stammers a bit. He reaches out his hand. You notice quickly, because his bow, despite the character, is put behind him, so he's not armed with weapons. You see this vaguely green glowing scroll. Maybe glowing is not the right word, but very tinted, very discolored thanks to this substance on the letter. And he just holds it out, his hand shaking. Still no words, a bit of a stammer, but he doesn't recognize you as individuals, as in people he may have encountered or not. You are very much just items in his peripheral vision. So it's just gesturing kind of vaguely toward any of you.
At that, I'm going to turn my attention back to Jenny and ask her, while pointing in that direction, "What sorcery is this?"
I
Aegir's
am not entirely sure.
Aegir being told to calm down doesn't, completely let go of his arrow. Still has it knocked, fingers on string, but he's not full drawn back. He's trying to decide if he needs to take this scroll from this person to see what this is. Is it safe to grab it?
Well,
Typhon would eventually, if he's still standing there just sort of with it shaking in his hand, would eventually direct him to place it on the bar and clear out a space for him to do so.
And that is something he can do. You start to see a couple of people come away from their tables as well, surrounding him as he does go up to the bar. He kind of vaguely goes toward the space where Ajir and nobody would have split the difference between them. And he sets the scroll down, or sets this note. See, it's more just basic parchment, but it was just rolled up in part because his fist has been probably clenched so much from whence he had came. And now you start to you hear the murmurs of the bar as people start surrounding as well. I think the townsfolk that are here are finding themselves a bit curious about what would have this individual. You hear a whisper or two of a name of Rowland for this gentleman, seemingly someone known, nothing prolific, but he's someone from the village, so they know him here in Wyhearth. He sets, it's crumpled, it's a bit battered, but you see this piece of parchment with green, again, fluid kind of around the peripheral of it.
I want to move in to get a better
Nope.
look at the parchment.
And about that time, nobody puts his kind of like just brings his fist down. Just he's still suspicious and still on guard, but at that point, he just kind of grabs a bottle and just looks away. He's looking away from the archer, but just holds the bottle back behind him just to give it to the guy because he doesn't really care to read it.
I don't think he can read it.
Rowland is going to start muttering a few words now that the scroll is out of his hand. He's a little bit coming to again, still kind of vaguely being around people that he knows or that know him, make him a little bit more relaxed. But Hillstone, Durgan Hillstone. Oh gods, oh gods. And he just kind of mutters as he walks away, still that name, Durgan Hillstone.
Typhon's going to direct this guy to a seat at the table. He's just kind of directing traffic now. Get him some water. Somebody who knows him come over here and start talking to him. Get him relaxed. Get him calmed down so that he can speak more plainly to us. And then he'll rejoin the rest, hoping that by now somebody has been able to translate or take something away from this thing.
I was going to say, just looking at it, is it something that I would be able to read?
Yeah, it's in common. There's nothing,
Okay.
again, depending on how comfortable you are with different substances that you come across in your journeys, it doesn't look like something you necessarily want to get very hands-on with. It gives you an odd feeling about it, but it is certainly legible and common. And actually, as you take a look at it, Jenny, it doesn't take much to notice that it's a very plain map. Typically, it seems to be at least one or two of the paths that are depicted on it are ones you have traveled coming back and forth to Wyhearth. So you at least believe it to be something relatively local. In fact, you do see Wyhearth on the map as a location. So you know it's somebody near here. And you also see a very specific location circled, going closer to the forest, a bit north and to the east. Again, a perimeter locale to the high forest. It's called Hill House. Is where the locale is circled specifically.
I don't like that name.
I'm going to go ahead and share with the group that this seems to be more of the local area, and it would be something within reasonable traveling distance.
As soon as you,
Okay.
yeah, as soon as you mention that, you say that the word Hill House. A couple of people, especially the two women that kind of perked up and came around to help Rowland, who is by this point sitting at their table. Again, Typhon, based upon your instruction, he is getting settled in a bit. The 1,000-yard stare is still there, but he is very much adjusting to being in a place that's relatively safe. It's starting to fade away. You hear a couple of mutters about Hill House. Durgan, we haven't seen him in a while. Durgan, oh boy, that's... You kind of hear a couple of people go, and to save you a little bit of trouble, the barkeep actually comes over and says, well, Hillstone may have met his match in some form or fashion.
Explain,
mean?
friend. What's happening here?
she begins to regale you with knowledge about Durgan Hillstone. Durgan Hillstone is a local businessman or entrepreneur. He has tried his hand over many years. His goal in life is to become a wealthy man. He wants to be able to not just for the pride of saying he has wealth, but to be someone in this region, Wyhearth, and this entire stretch of the High Force, to be someone known of high renown. He is from this area, and as you can tell, as this goes on very quickly, the barmaid is more than happy, based upon your help, Typhon, and also Nobody, in part because you've probably kept the lights on and the fire burning around this place for a few weeks now. She's more than willing to share with you this tale that Durgan Hillstone was determined as a young man, scraping and scrounging, doing many of the jobs, Typhon, that you've probably been doing recently. And Aegir, probably the same thing for you, helping to deliver casks of mead across parts of the hills, to chop wood, gather greens. He's doing everything he could as a young man to try to become wealthy, because he grew up a very poor individual, a family of 8 or 9 siblings trying to work the land. His parents were unsuccessful in doing so for many years. Being in this part of the region, he was able to start a small trading business in his latter teenage years, and he's been doing well with that. Nothing of the wealth of which he aspired, but he is comfortable. He's able to live on the outskirts of Wyhearth, going up toward the High Force with his wife and 3 sons. But he's not had much luck in the way of business recently, through a few opportunities or a few misadventures for many of his shippers and the things he has attempted to transport. He has found himself, or had found himself, perhaps, on the precipice of bankruptcy. The last she had heard is that he used the last of his money. He basically mortgaged the home on what he had heard was a crystal that could create gemstones. He had traveled afar off to acquire this item, going so far, again, spending most of the money that he has, going up toward Neverwinter, trying to find anything that could salvage his life's efforts to be that wealthy man. She had heard that the stone, or that crystal that he had acquired, was in fact capable of creating many gems. She had heard whispers from friends and passerbys that knew of Hillstone through previous business ventures that his home had become adorned greatly with many of these gems. But soon after that insight, not even a week later, Durgan and his family were no longer in contact with anybody. There had been whispers that maybe he had started to sell off the gemstones and move away, but when people would inquire, or at least from a safe distance would notice, that everything at the Hill House, which is what he had called his estate, as it were, everything was still there. Nothing had been done to indicate that he and his family had left. And also the barkeep looks in a little more, especially looking at Rowland, who's at the table now, and he kind of comes by a bit to join in toward this part. She's been regaling you with this for about 15 minutes. He's kind of gotten his wits about him. He acknowledges that someone in my hunting party, we venture that way often when we go to find new grounds with which to find some animals. One of my friends growing up had been sent that way as an effort to find the Hillstone family, and it's been a week now, and we have not seen him. He has not returned. I have heard not of where he is. Gilbert he seems to sink in his chair a bit. Gilbert has navigated these lands far more than even I. He's an older and more experienced hunter than me. He never came back. And that doesn't strike me as something that would happen to Gilbert. And he kind of, again, stammers through a little bit. You can tell that even thinking about Gilbert and what could have happened to him leaves him in this sullen state. And the barmaid looks over to, well, specifically the three of you that have discussed in this conversation, saying, well, that's what happens when you mess with things that you shouldn't. We here in Wyhearth seem to live a relatively simple life. Durgan wasn't much made for that, and unfortunately, whatever he's found himself caught up in, it seems to, at least for the time being, put him in even a worse place than what he once was.
Well, it sounds to
Typhon,
me.
at the end of. Sorry, go ahead.
It sounds to me if he was looking for easy answers and easy wealth, and now he's gone missing, it's probably not a beast. There's a possibility that he got involved with a demon.
Typhon is reminiscing on another teaching of Muhammad, and he mentions aloud, actually, as he thinks of it, that abhorring gold is the way one is taught in the following the path of Muhammad. To sit next to the sun for too long is to likely go blind. And he turns to Jenny at the mention of demon and says, "It sounds as though our excursion to the Star Mounts may have to be put on hold."
That's quite all right. This seems a bit more important, at least for the people that have been being kind hosts to us.
Rowland,
And oh, sorry. Indeed, he mentions, in addition to that, you seek mystery. Perhaps mystery has found you.
It has a way of doing that sometimes.
Rowland is going to make mention that he is not a man of means, but it sounds as though there are at least a couple of you that wish to play party to investigate what is going on with the Hill House and specifically the Hillstone clan. And that he doesn't have much in the reward way to offer, but that he would have his eternal gratitude to share if you do so. You see a couple people kind of step up and do the same thing, maybe reminiscing about times they had spent with Lady Hillstone, as it were. Again, not anybody of royalty, but a moniker that she may have flaunted once or twice in aspirations of her husband's wealth soon coming. Rowland does perk up a bit, if only for a second, to acknowledge that the items I brought you here, this map is not acquired. It wasn't acquired without cost to something. He kind of looks around as if not to sound crazy, but acknowledges to the four of you as you gather around, and the barmaid as well. I did not come by this by my desire. On my way back to Wyhearth from the edge of the high forest, oddly enough, on the way from the Hillstone estate, this scroll was in the hand of a picked, relatively clean body. They're more bone than man. It is something as if any
They
of
were
the high
devoured.
birds. He acknowledges your statement of that and says, if devoured, not by a creature of normal repute, not of anything I've hunted in my years in this area, but almost as if partially eroded or dissolved at parts. I do not know how long this body may have been here. I did not wish to investigate beyond even the acknowledgement that this could have been my hunting friend. It does not seem, it's far shorter than he, but it is a body and of something particular, the notes, the map being of a place nearby and of such intrigue recently. I don't know, but this is unsettling to say the least.
Nobody kind of like perks up and turns around and asks, like, where is this?
Hill House is, and Rowland will gesture toward the map, although not necessarily pointing it out. Hill House, the Hillstone home, is not terribly far away from Wyhearth. You would go a bit into the high forest on the outskirts. It is no more than a day's journey. Again, he wished to be nearby and be a prominent individual in this region, but still wished to be conveniently close to Wyhearth, in part due to his shipping business. He wanted to be nearby a village he could use as a hub, being so close to the rivers and the coast. He wanted to make sure he could be hands-on, so it is on the edge of the forest, about a day's journey.
And this is where the body is, or the map was found?
The map and the remains, again, shudders as he says it, we're closer to Wyhearth than they were the Hill House. The Hillstone home is probably, I'd say, a half day, maybe 3/4 day journey from where I came upon this. Again, the home is going to skirt the woods, so you will end up being in the forest, but it is, previously at least, navigatable.
Nobody has a kind of a stand by me moment and starts getting curious to see the results of the devouring.
As best he can, Typhon's going to sort of take the other three and get them aside from everyone else long enough to say, we seem to be the stoutest among these people. We're clearly not from this place. But personally, I feel a need to investigate and to assist. I wouldn't ask anything of you I wouldn't do myself. But would you be willing to help me in helping these people?
Nobody holds up a bottle and says, I got nothing else better to do.
I'm really just here to sleep, but apparently I'm not going to get any rest until this is done, so I will help.
As I've discussed with you before, I am a curious one, and I would like to know what's caused this.
The smile spreads as Typhon nods, and to Ager particularly. He says, "Oh no, my friend. Rest begets vigilance, and vigilance will be necessary. Tonight we sleep. Tomorrow we venture forth." And to that, he turns to the rest of the people in the tavern and gives his inspirational speech. Fear not, people of Wyhearth. For tonight you feel terrorized, but tomorrow we will set out to discover what has happened at Hill House and to your friends.
And about that time, nobody kind of like holds up his bottle and says, yes, and then falls off the bar and into the floor.
He's out.
Nobody, you're going to take 3 points of fall damage for that. Taking it off the bar is a little bit difficult for you.
That is Cazman.
That's what the sleeping's for.
Exactly. I'm about to say, conveniently for you, your passed out state will allow you to recover that, but perhaps as a point of pride, you take a little bit, you got a bruise perhaps on your head or on one of your human arms as you
That is fair.
fall.
Yeah, that's a deeper fall than it may seem.
So for those of you who are here to journey, the barmaid and the innkeeper, the owner and manager of this establishment, who is kept to himself, again being injured, doesn't wish to be amongst the day-to-day, basically being a safe distance away. They acknowledge that, yes, Typhon, as has been the arrangement made, you have a place to rest for the evening. And the barmaid specifically looks at nobody and says, well, that's one way to get rest, I suppose. We'll address that in a moment. Jenny, Aegir, especially for you, Aegir, you have made your trade, you have made your arrangements in terms of the commerce that you have undertaken. So you too have a place to rest this evening. As we mentioned, your specifically successful mead brewing or mead making this time around has made this bar even a bit more hospitable than many. They seem quite overjoyed at the quality, and clearly nobody has been put down in no small part thanks to what you have brought this evening. Jenny, due to your willingness at least to play party to this, the barmaid still seems kind of a bit astonished at what has all transpired in the last 30 minutes or so, but she acknowledges that if you wish to travel with this party to seek out what has happened to the Hillstone family, we would be more than happy to provide you accommodations this evening as well.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Hashtag good mead, sir. You beautiful bastard. Then the day is afoot. We will take traveling for 500. You four get your rest. Nobody, your rest isn't, well, restful fully, but you regain your hit points. It's not that you're in that state, but you do wake up feeling a little worse for the wear with the whole landing on your side, crashing off the bar. Be that as it may, the four of you, unless there are any preparations you dare to make in Wyhearth, the morning finds you fair weather and a seemingly clear path to begin your way toward the Hillstone home and the perimeter of the High Forest.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
As you all,
Yeah, I wasn't gonna add anything specific there because I thought we were ending. I'm not gonna lie to you.
oh yeah, I was gonna give you a little bit more background, but you did pick a good spot for it because that's where this is gonna go.
No, it's okay. It's totally up to you, man. You're the DM. I didn't want to add anything else because I thought that was it.
No, you're okay. We are going, so with that, the fair weather and the fair path that you may go, nobody, you specifically notice that you're, again, a little worse for wear. You're okay. You're feeling all right, but you are a little less sure-hooved than you would be some other days. You're curious about the vintage of mead that Aegir has brought. Aegir, specifically for you, again, you didn't plan on you planned on selling your wares and getting out of Dodge. What's your internal monologue going with right now as you start to make your way toward a path?
My internal monologue is, I just wanted a place to sleep. I just let me stay a couple days and keep on my journey. But I know that's not going to happen if I don't go help with this. So let me go ahead and get this done. See if I can get some rest after this. Continue on my journey wherever that may lead me.
So as you do, the four of you make your way in no particular formation. I'll allow you to adjust as you so wish, but we'll kind of stack you as we are here. Making your way into, again, the perimeter of the High Forest. Not going too terribly far away from the unbeaten path. There is a path laid before you. But as you go toward where this place is, you see a bit of a scene adjustment for Typhon. You've noticed a lot of greenery in this area. This is a very healthy place. You've been able to take in greens and wood and lumber. You're starting to notice that the trees don't look as sturdy as they have in the past, or at least in your previous travels around through here. For the rest of you, give me, Jenny especially, go ahead and give me a perception check. You've been around here a little bit. Let's see what you're noticing here.
Okay. Let me find my stuff.
A perceptive horse.
A whole whopping
Wow,
6.
Yeah, okay. So, Jenny, you, despite your best efforts, are quite excited about this adventure. Again, this is a mystery, maybe not the overarching one you've been seeking, but missing peoples, maybe, arcana involved activity. Something about this sounds very interesting to you.
I want to
you
see
don't
that
notice
body
as
and I'm
much.
focused on it.
Yeah, you are very much in that way. Let's see. Aegir, go ahead. Again, you're not for the rest of you, with that perception, or at least nobody, you are noticing very astutely, I see for the two of you, that you have you are noticing much the same thing as Typhon is. You are the trees that you would see are it seems like they're withering away, but this is the middle of the late summer, the early autumn. These are things that should be maybe turning a bit, maybe brown and red in the leaves, but not much in the way of this level of almost decrepit. This road is taking you into the hills, and again, maybe not fully intimately familiar, but as you continue going, especially this stretch, as you start to see an estate in the distance, these trees are dead. The grass is brown, and there are these pockets of liquid. It seems, Azir, you've traveled amongst the areas here, almost as if it's a swamp in terms of like the random pools and bodies that are bodies of liquid that are floating, are kind of going nearby.
I turn and say, companions, do you notice anything weird with the life cycle of the forest here? This is very irregular. Like this should be a bright green living forest, and things are dying.
With him saying that, I actually start to look around at stuff. I get drawn to it. I'm like, it looks like their life's been drained.
Already Typhon has drawn his free hand to the holy symbol that he wears is like it looks like a metallic fang of some kind around his neck, which he grabs with one hand and kind of quietly whispers something to himself. To the group at large, though, he says, "Evil is afoot here, friends. We must be vigilant and on our guard."
Is there any hesitance for any of you? Is there any one of you that wishes to turn back, or do you wish to keep going forward?
I want to keep pressing forward.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
Oh, Aegir wants to turn back, but he knows he can't.
Then by that logic, I may put you in the rear of the party here as the rest of you make your way forward. Well, maybe not stretch you out. That seems a little bit mean.
Bow is in hand, arrow notched. It's ready for whatever.
Okay. So away you shall go a bit more forward. As the party gets to about here, you start hearing specifically nobody, because you're the closest to this side. You start hearing what sounds like hissing, maybe? Bubbling? It sounds as though there's a cauldron nearby. Like it sounds like somebody is heating something.
Curiosity definitely strikes him, and he just kind of like head up and just starts slowly walking off into the brush.
Nobody, give me a perception check. 9. Okay. You being on guard, but not to the best of your abilities after the revelry of last night. You're looking more, despite being of relatively shorter stature, you're looking at the horizon. You're looking at eye level. What you don't notice, and actually, the rest of the group, go ahead and give me that perception check one more time while we're at it. Because you do not seem to be aware of what's going on. Azir, you likewise are not quite aware.
Sorry, Cody, use a perception check?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm at 17. I forgot to hit
You
my,
are at 17.
my modifier.
No, you're okay. That's why I've got the sheets pulled up. No sweat on that. At 11. Typhon, you don't notice either, but Jenny, being now kind of alerted to the surroundings, you start to see what originally looked like a pool of tar. What looks like maybe an appendage, or at least an outstretched blob, starts going out toward the front hooves of Nobody.
Nobody, back up.
And that's where we're going to leave it off.
Back it up, Terry. Put it in reverse.
Reverse the button, Lily. Reverse the button.
Backwards.
Okay, very glad I went with the short version.
Yeah, that's That shall be for a conversation next time around, though. This is where we will leave off for part 1 of this adventure. Much like last time, we will not give it a name yet, as to leave it a bit mysterious. Tanner, I will note that, yes, you are picking up on a name, as far as I know in this adventure, not necessarily pulled toward that, but maybe inspired by recent television broadcasts. It has a nice rhythm to the name in terms of that. So take no heed other than just the name of it, but kind of fun there. But that is what we have for you this week on PZ85 Plays. I want to say thank you to our players, Double H, Kaz, Lindsay, and Tanner. I will note just quickly before we kind of wrap things up that there will not be an episode, at least of this campaign, next week. Yours truly is going to be traveling down to the Gulf of Mexico, the southern coast of these states, to take a vacation. May or may not relax, may or may not have a place to go, depending on what's happening currently with now Hurricane Elsa. So it's not uncommon. I mean, we went to Gulf Shores for our wedding, or our honeymoon, my wife and I, and we were there during a tropical storm, drove into town not knowing there was a tropical storm, and spent all of about 6 hours on the beach because it was double red flags for most of the week. But we saw Wonder Woman and read a lot of books. So take it for what you will.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a plan in place. Well, I can actually, let me rephrase that. I know for a fact there's not a plan in place for what we may or may not do next week. We might just take the week off.
We might just take it off and figure out the technical end of things on mine and Shannon's end.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I can put together something really quick, but we couldn't even do, there's very little we can do in one night in just the few hours that we play. Right. A one-shot campaign like Cody's running when we do it in this format typically takes 3 to 4 installments of the show. Yeah. So we may just go ahead and take that week off. I think that's probably for the best. Like you said, get everything set up the way we want it, and then return fresh. That would be on the 18th. Tuesday the 18th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Better to do it right than to do it fast.
Yes. Also, quickly, before 20th. We go anywhere...
20th. Sorry, 18th to
20th? Am I doing my math wrong?
Yes, 12? Because that Monday
is because 17th is a convention in Perryville.
I'm counting wrong days. Also, let's thank Cody for DMing tonight. I appreciate it, as always, very much so. It's nice to get a chance to play. Also, before we go, I found a quick preview of the episode on the 20th of how it's going to begin, if you want to have a look in the Discord there.
Oh, no.
Based on the way things just ended. No! I know how this is going to go.
That's not fair.
That's how dare you pull out artifacts? You can't do that.
If that was me, I'd be drowning because I'm too short to be in that swamp.
No, you know you did. Why?
I couldn't resist.
That's movie when traumatized me as a child, and I still love it.
It's right that now, gif of Link from the old NES TV series throwing that bomb and like gliding away on a shield. You just drop something spicy in the chat and leave.
Right now, he's looking at Atreyu screaming in Draconian, "Please help me."
Odds. That makes it so much worse.
Somehow magically Gross's control panel showed up. I need assistance.
Here it is. I dropped that image in there, and then the episode ends right there. That's how you leave the chat.
That's so awful.
Just people deserve to on know. The last image of him being in the trees, and then we'll be right back from Eric Andre's show.
Okay, it goes now. I can't handle it.
I think the people deserve to know what we're looking at.
Oh yeah. You want to reveal that to them? By all means, go ahead.
Poor me.
Oh.
Poor
Smoothie,
horse.
stupid horse.
But
God, that story is horrible.
This story is, in fact, not never ending, but we will pick it up to continue its travels on the 20th. So, as has been mentioned previously, possibly a show on Wednesday for Pro Wrestling Unscripted with the Big D and Asa. Again, for Thursday and Friday, as things go, we shall see. I hope, in fact, there is horse time, if only in part because I've got a 9-hour drive down to Alabama on Saturday. I would like to fill one of those hours with something.
I know for a fact I won't be here Thursday. We're going to see Black Widow at 5 on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Literally the first possible showing. So we're going to go see that on Thursday. I don't think we will be back in time to do a show that night. I mean, maybe, depending on if we eat before or after, but more than likely I'll be here Friday. I don't know about Thursday, though.
Cool. Yeah, so that is where the week stands. Yeah, I understand. One more time, Hunter, I'll let you plug it in terms of what has happened most recently on I want to believe, and what is forthcoming, because I know you teased that at the beginning of the show.
Oh yeah, if you were not here at the beginning or if you missed our show last night, Tanner, Shannon, and I spoke with Michael Huntington, a ufologist, technically, to a degree. He's a paranormal researcher from Cape Girardeau, probably the most prominent in the area. He is a world traveler. He travels to areas of paranormal events and documents them and researches them. So that's everything from UFOs to ghosts to cryptids. We had a really great interview with him last night, which you can see right now at our Facebook page right here, or at you can listen to it at podzilla1985.com. Again, it's one of those great episodes that works orally. You don't necessarily have to get the visuals for it. So if you're out and about doing things and you want to listen, go get the audio version and check it out. And then on the Tanner, I'm going to mess it up again. 18th or the 19th or the 16th?
19th.
19th. Okay. I can't do math on dates tonight. On Monday, Monday the 19th, and a couple of weeks from now, Scott Walter is coming back to the show. Of course, has been on I Want to Believe before, and he's going to come in. Tanner's got more about that.
Yeah, he and his wife both are coming. She's also an author.
Oh, yeah.
Janet Walter, if you get a chance, Google her. She's done some great work. Especially, she's done a lot of great work with Alan Butler, who's one of the top most Templar researchers in the world. Anytime Discovery, History, Travel Channel, anytime any of them do any kind of work on the Templars, Alan Butler's right in the middle of it. And it's her work is really fun.
So that's coming up on the 19th later on this month. And again, plays will be back that same week, I think.
Indeed.
On
the 20th from now.
Yeah. So that's what we got. And as far as the rest of the week, tune in. We'll keep you updated.
We'll make it happen. Again, all the links, facebook.com/Podzilla1985, where you've been watching this. So keep watching for what's coming. Podzilla1985.com if you want to catch up on the previous D&D adventure, or if you want to find out why we're playing D&D, because we've ended up at a stopping point right now for Star Wars and the Dawn of Defiance. We're at what's called a cliffhanger, in which we will be back soon. So please stand by. If fantasy isn't your strong suit, we'll be back with Space Pew Pews very soon. But until the next time we speak, in whatever avenue that may be, for those involved in the campaign, for our Centaur 40 hands engulfed in flames friend, I am your Dungeon Master, Cody Sandusky, saying, well, actually, you know what? I won't even send you out. Parker, take us out.